Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Osteoporosis Canada's Cooking Demo webinar. Before we begin today's webinar, Osteoporosis Canada acknowledges the land that our offices, located in Toronto, are on, is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. My name is Tracie Napoli, Director of Fund Development and MARCOM at Osteoporosis Canada, and I will be your cooking demo host today. This webinar will provide general information about cooking and food knowledge. It's not intended as individualized health or nutrition advice, but if you have questions, please consult a physician or registered dietitian. Now, we would love to hear from you. So if you have questions or comments related directly to the webinar, you can either click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen or enter your comments in the chat. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can during the webinar within the time available. Now, when planning and preparing meals, Osteoporosis Canada recommends getting the 5 recommended nutrients for bone health and in the prevention and management of osteoporosis daily. There's calcium, one of the key minerals that supports new bone formation and helps maintain strong bones. Vitamin D ensures our bodies can absorb enough calcium and supports muscle function. Protein is necessary to build and repair bone tissue and helps keep muscle strong. Magnesium helps our bodies use vitamin D, which is, of course, important for calcium absorption, and vitamin K activates a protein that helps build bone and bind minerals, such as calcium, to the bone structure. Osteoporosis Canada recommends that, whenever possible, to get bone-building nutrients through food sources. Now, not everyone has told us that they enjoy cooking. They love coming to watch these cooking demos, but sometimes they'll share that they're not motivated to cook or they've run out of ideas. So we have put together some simple suggestions and tips which may help you in the kitchen. So doing a meal plan is such a great idea. It helps reduce food waste. It helps you stay on budget. So we encourage you to do that. Also, check out flyers and specials for sale items that can be stored to help stay on budget. And you don't always have to cook or prepare everything from scratch. And we're going to talk about that today during the cooking demo. You can also try batch cooking for soups, sauces, and meatballs, anything that can be made and portioned out to enjoy throughout the week and to freeze. Keep staples on hand in the pantry or the freezer. And if it's something where it's a recipe that it's going to take a little bit too much out of you, you're getting a little tired, break it up. See if you can do prep earlier in the day or even the night before. And if you need to, sit instead of standing. The other thing you can do is get a cooking buddy. Join an online recipe or cooking group and keep watching OC cooking demos for inspiration and to find new recipes you may want to try at home. Always ask for help when needed. If you need help lifting heavy pots or chopping, or my favorite, I love to get help cleaning up. And of course, Emily and I love it when we can do things where we freeze extra portions, which we've already mentioned. Now, speaking of Emily, let's introduce our friend Emily Richards, who's a professional home economist, freelance food writer, chef, and she's the author and co-author of 11 cookbooks. Emily also writes and develops recipes for print and online publications that include everyday cooking and healthy eating. And she can be found on TV, radio, and webcasts like this one. However, we have missed the slide for the featured recipe. So we're just going to go back one because somehow that skipped over, because this is very important. So our cooking demo featured recipe today is turkey and cranberry strata. It sounds very fancy, but I guarantee you it's so simple and delicious to make. Each serving has 150 milligrams of calcium, 28 grams of protein, 35 milligrams of magnesium, 1.75 micrograms of vitamin K, 2 micrograms of vitamin D, and you can get this and other recipes on the Osteoporosis Canada website at osteoporosis.ca/recipes. I will also pop the recipe link into the chat. And now, Now we're going to say hi to Emily. Hello, Emily.
Hello, Tracie. Hey, everybody. I love that because I was just about ready to talk and I'm like, wait a minute, they didn't know what we're cooking yet.
Technology is great until it doesn't exactly work. So it's all good. But we're very excited about this recipe. It's seasonal, but it's easy. It sounds fancy, right? It's delicious. I've had this.
It
It's
does.
very good.
It's so easy. And for those of us joining us outside of Canada, it's Canadian Thanksgiving this weekend. So there may be a lot of turkey leftovers. So this is a perfect recipe for that.
Exactly. And before we get cooking, um, we're going to do our apron giveaway that we always do. So if you're still on the webinar at the end, when we draw a name, I will announce your name and then we'll be in touch and we'll ship you that lovely purple apron that Emily has on. So Emily, I will let you take it away.
Perfect. Thank you. I had a little tickle in my throat. So if I start coughing, the water's nearby, not to worry. And I'm just going to tell you right now, if you hear any barking, it's because I have two little Yorkies that are in love with turkey. So anytime turkey is in the kitchen, they're waiting for leftovers. So Strata, what's a Strata? You've probably had it before. It is that casserole that is delicious with eggs and milk. Sometimes there's cheese in it. But in the end, the simplicity of this, get this, everybody, we're making sandwiches. We're going to build this casserole, and it's perfect make ahead. It's great to freeze. We're going to talk about all of that as we get through. So let's get going. The first thing I want to do is tell you that, as Tracie mentioned, the recipes on the OC website. She's going to send you the link as well in the chat. But I printed out the recipe. I'm very messy in the kitchen. So I always like to have a piece of paper and not my phone, not my computer, because I want it to work later. So I always do this because I want to have all the ingredients out and make sure I have everything at the ready, which is hopefully what I have. So we're actually going to start off with the custard portion, which is the eggs and milk. So that's kind of going to coat all of our sandwiches. And we're going to add some seasoning to that as well. So I have 2.5 cups of milk and 5 eggs. So I'm going to crack my eggs in here. And while I do that, I know the questions are already building. Well, what can I use instead of milk? What if I have a non-dairy family member? You can use a non-dairy beverage in place of the milk. And the one thing that, and you'll hear Tracie and I say this over and over again, especially if you've been to one of the webinars, DOC webinars before, is that as soon as you start to make these substitutes, a lot of the nutrients that we've given you tend to change. So if you are using a non-dairy substitute, make sure that it is one that has some calcium in there, and added protein would obviously be a benefit as well. So I've added 5 large eggs into my milk, okay? And I'm gonna add some seasoning to it. So what's that seasoning? I'm gonna add 2 cloves of fresh garlic. And if you don't wanna use fresh garlic, you can use some garlic powder in here. I would use about a teaspoon because that would give us a great amount of flavor. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of salt in here too. Okay. Now, if you wanted some other herbs, you could use a little bit of onion powder in here would be lovely. You could use some dried herbs, which is my next ingredient. I'm actually going to use the fresh, which is some fresh sage. I don't know about your gardens, but I have an abundance of fresh sage, which is perfect timing for Thanksgiving or any kind of fall comfort food dish, because sage tastes so delicious with so many of them. So I'm using the fresh sage here, and I'm going to chop about 2 tablespoons. So I'm just taking off my leaves from the fresh sage stem. Now, if you're wondering what to do with this, this is actually lovely if you want to simmer it in a little bit of water with cranberries, perhaps as your guests are coming for the holidays, just a nice little aroma of sage. You could also, if you are having a fire, this is beautiful, the aroma that it kicks out in a fire. You could also just put this into a roasting pan with some potatoes and have that lovely soft aroma of fresh sage in your potatoes, which is lovely. So I'm going to steal a couple more leaves here to get our 2 tablespoons. Now, 2 tablespoons fresh, if you chop a little bit extra, that's okay. It will taste absolutely delicious. If you're using dried sage, you're going to be using less. So a little rule of thumb typically for dried and fresh is a 3-to-1 ratio. So this is your home ec lesson for the webinar. Well, there might be a few more, but for every 1 tablespoon of fresh, you'd use 1 teaspoon of dried. And why is that? Because there's 3 teaspoons in 1 tablespoon. So that's where that 3-to-1 ratio comes from. So because I'm using 2 tablespoons of fresh sage, you could use 2 teaspoons of dried sage. And if you kind of look over my right shoulder and see some dried herbs hanging, that's my sage that I'm drying. So I do have some dried sage to use later on in the year. Okay, so in goes my fresh sage right into that egg and milk mixture. Okay, and then we're just going to whisk this up and set this aside because we have to make those sandwiches. Okay, now if you needed to, let's say you had to go pick up the kids after school and you just got to this part, just tuck it in the fridge. You can come back to it. It'll be okay. Just sitting there. Okay. So we do want to make sure that our eggs are all broken up evenly. Well, there you can see as soon as you think you got it, you just need a little bit more whisking. There we go. And I'm just going to set that over here. So there's our custard mixture. And I also have my other ingredients ready. I have a little bit of Dijon mustard and cranberry sauce. Okay. And we're also going to use a little bit of black pepper. Oh, you know what? I have a little bit of leftover sage here. I'm just going to add that in there. I don't want anything to go to waste. So sandwiches, bread. What about if I'm gluten-free? What if I don't like this kind of bread? What if I only have that kind of bread? What if it's stale bread? The answer is yes, across the board. You can use any of the bread. I'm using a multi-grain bread. This is I think a 12 grain. You could use 7 grain, you could use whole wheat, you could use an egg bread. If you have stuffing bread, there's a lot of places around Thanksgiving make stuffing bread. If you want that added flavor, you could definitely do that. You could use a gluten-free bread as well. So there's lots of options to create these sandwiches. So we need 12 slices because we're making 6 sandwiches. So I'm going to just count out my slices here. And if you're wondering if this needs to be 2, 4, 6, if you need to have fresh bread, it works with fresh bread. It works with stale bread. If you have bread in the freezer that you need to get rid of, pull it out and let it thaw, and then you can create the sandwiches as well. Okay. So the key is trying to have the sandwich slices the same. I don't know about if this happens in your house, but if someone takes out a slice from the front and then goes further in and takes one out from the middle, then you can't find the matching pair. It can drive someone nuts. Well, maybe me typically, but so I have my matching pairs here and I'm going to set out my sandwiches. So I have a nice big work surface here that I'm going to make my sandwiches from. So I'm going to work this way, side by side, so you can see kind of everything happening. And if you're thinking, Emily, I don't need 6 sandwiches, I only need 4, I still want you to make all 6, okay? Because then you can freeze the leftovers. We always talk about this because leftovers are fabulous to have. You're just not ready to make dinner, or you just don't feel like making dinner. You can pull it out of the freezer and warm it up in the oven or in the microwave, and dinner's done. So it's always nice to have those tucked away in the freezer. So first thing I'm going to start off with is some mustard, okay? So I'm going to put mustard on 6 of these slices. So kind of opposite every other one I'm going to do here. So Tracie, what are you thinking so far? Is this like super easy or what?
I love this. So like, and you know what the thing is, sometimes it's even like what makes it easy is that your workspace, you've kind of allotted yourself. You do need space to do this, but let's say you didn't have as much space, you could do like 3 at a time, and then you could kind of put them together, right, Emily? So
totally.
I think that this is great. So I said we're cooking, but really, not really. We're kind of assembling, right? It's an assembly demo.
We are
We're gonna
totally.
make it. That's it. And it's really simple. And I wanted to chat. So when I said, during the introduction about, you don't always have to cook everything. A really great piece of this is that if you went to the store and they had rotisserie chicken, you don't need to make your own chicken. Let's say you don't have turkey, or let's say it's February and you want to eat this. It doesn't just need to be for, Thanksgiving. You could just go buy some cooked chicken. And for other things like, it's not for this recipe, but instead of peeling and chopping a bunch of vegetables, sometimes you can get them already done, mixed vegetables that are frozen. If they're on sale, you pop them in the freezer again. Emily and I love the freezer. And so that's all there. But I think like the question about things like spices, if you don't like, I like mustard. If you don't like mustard, Emily, I think you said, you could use a different kind of mustard. You could use mayo. And
You can.
somebody asked actually about if they have an allergy to onion and garlic, just don't put it in.
All great questions. And what I love about these kinds of recipes is that it's really to give you an idea to create your own flavors. So if you can't have garlic, you can leave the garlic out, but maybe add a second herb to it. If sage and thyme go beautifully together, or if you want to, change things up, a little bit of curry powder in here would be absolutely delicious. So there's those types of things that you can, if you're replacing one thing, but you still want to amp up the flavor, and herbs definitely do that in this case. So that works really well. Now, mustard, I know people sit on the fence. I don't like it. I like it. And that's okay. I like that like pepperiness kind of spice of Dijon mustard. And I added a little bit of fresh ground pepper on top. That's what I was doing while Tracie was chatting. And so if you're not a mustard fan, you want something on the sweeter side, a honey mustard would work beautifully. Mayo would work. But what about something to jazz it up even more, like pesto or a roasted garlic aioli? Turkey or chicken, whatever the filling you're using here, you really want to amplify it. And you kind of don't want it to taste like that roast turkey that you just have. You want to change it up a little bit. The great part about this, though, is that we are incorporating some leftovers. This could be the bread that you bought to make stuffing and you still have bread left, right? So you can use that bread. The turkey will be left over from the turkey you roasted. And let's say you made extra cranberry sauce, or cranberry sauce was on sale in the tins and you bought extra. This is a perfect place to use it. So this is where, if you have homemade cranberry sauce, 100% use it here. It will be absolutely delicious. But the convenience of picking up a locally made cranberry sauce or a commercially made, whatever your family preference is, I like to have some cranberry pieces in the cranberry sauce, just because when you bite into the sandwich, it has that nice little pop and it's a little bit extra juiciness that's lovely. So that's actually our next ingredient here, which is the cranberry sauce. And if you're thinking, well, you know what, I don't like serving cranberry sauce with my turkey, that's okay too. You can use, what about a mango chutney? That would be delicious. I've had it with turkey and I absolutely love it. It has a nice kick to it, a little bit of sweetness. You could use a peach chutney maybe that a neighbor made, and you don't know where to use it. Again, you want to spice it up. This with hot pepper jelly is phenomenal, okay? So sometimes you just kind of have to peek in your cupboard, see what you have. Sometimes I have jars in there that I've had friends and neighbors, they've done their preserving and they've given me a jar, and I'm like, oh, this is a bigger jar than what I need for something, and it's in the fridge. So I want to use it up. And this is a great way to do that. So I'm just kind of dividing everything up. And this is the other reason why I love using this space. My grandmother had so many things on the counter. She would always go to the dining room table and use that because it was a wider space. So she'd sit down, and something like this, especially if you're tired and you can't, if you're not able to stand for long times, then for sure, grab a seat at the table, because this is all stuff that you can do sitting down quite easily. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting a little bit kind of even mixture on everything. So that's why I'm having the ability to spread out really, really helps. Okay. And I'm trying to get to kind of the corners of the bread as best I can without making too much of a mess. But the good part is if anything falls out, you can always tuck it back in. Tracie, do we have any questions right now?
We did, so you did answer the one about the gluten-free. So, and also for other breads. So if you find, when you go to the grocery store and in the bakery section, and there's like, the cart 50% off, this is like the best kind of recipe to use for a little staler bread. Because when you use a custard like this. It really absorbs. It's really good. Emily is pulling out one she did. So we're just gonna,
You're not supposed to see this,
oh my
but
goodness, we're not supposed to see it?
I
Okay.
might, I might have to show it to you because it looks so beautiful.
Ooh, okay, so
I'm
it's
just
so good.
gonna, okay. So this was, I tried to time it. I swear I really did, but it didn't work out. I had to put it in the oven so that we had a finished one to show you. So I'm going to show it to you early.
Okay, there we go. It's gonna motivate us to keep going. So hang on, I'm gonna get off and we're gonna look at.
So this is fresh out of the oven. You can see kind of it's puffed up the sides. You see that golden brown, but look at the top, how beautiful and golden brown it is. And the eggs lift it. So the one thing I want to show you while it's here, and it is hot, this is how you're going to test it. You're going to take a little paring knife and just go in, okay, pull it out and see how it's coming out clean. That means that it's cooked all the way through. So the egg mixture, that custard mixture is cooked through. And I'm just going to leave this on the back oven here so that we'll dig into it later. Well, I guess I should say I'll dig into it later, but I'll tell you all about it. And it does need to cool. So let's keep going with our sandwiches. So you had the sneak peek. I did the early reveal, but you're going to see it all come together. Turkey. So here's where maybe you're not making turkey this weekend. Maybe you're making a roast chicken, or maybe you're making ham. What's great about this is that it's a great way to use up leftovers. Now, obviously, when you change the protein, things are going to change. As I mentioned, the nutrients, right? But here, turkey is a great lean protein, and it's a great leftover protein that often, because you're picking up a turkey and roasting it, perhaps on sale. And by the way, you do not have to roast turkey just for the holidays. You can roast a turkey any time of the year and enjoy those leftovers. But it doesn't have to be that fresh roast turkey. It could be turkey that is already cooked at the store. You could also use the roast chicken. As Tracie mentioned earlier, the rotisserie chicken is a great substitute here. If you're serving up ham, you could use ham in here. So there's really lots of options. Now, if you're already thinking, Emily, I need a vegetarian option, what am I going to do? Not a problem. We're going to go to tofu or beans, and I'll tell you what to do as I'm putting on this turkey. So this is 3 cups of chopped turkey that I'm going to divide somewhat evenly onto the cranberry side, because I find that it sticks a little bit better on the cranberry side. Okay, so this is where some will fall off. And again, this is a visual for me to, you could use a 1/2 cup measure if you wanted to, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it with all the sandwiches out. So if you wanted to use tofu, and yes, I did say extra firm tofu, what I would do is actually break it up into chunks so that it's kind of, it looks all gnarly, like rough, and then toss that in a marinade. You could use something as simple as an Italian salad dressing, or you could use your own dried herbs and spices with a little bit of oil. And I would actually let that sit, if you can, overnight in the fridge so that it really absorbs all the flavor. So you're going to get lots of wonderful flavor into that tofu. And if you wanted to, you could use the seasonings that you would on turkey, like sage or thyme. You could add a little bit of oil to that just to kind of get everything going. If you want a little bit of that Italian twist, you could put some of pesto right into that too, and a little splash of vinegar in with the tofu and let it marinate overnight. And then I would just roast it and then use that as the filling. So once it's roasted, just to kind of get the flavor a little bit cooked right into the tofu, which is really nice. The other option you could use are beans. And I think beans are fabulous for sandwiches, because if you're a fan of tuna salad or egg salad, you can really kind of recreate that texture. So chickpeas or lentils would be really nice. And let's say you have some roasted vegetables left over, chop those up and mix them up with I would crush the chickpeas or the lentils a little bit, and then chop up the vegetables, stir it in so that you have this beautiful mixture that, again, you can add those harvest spices like sage, thyme, maybe even a little bit of rosemary if you want. And you can still use these base flavors because they will come through quite nicely. So I think that covers a lot of leftovers as well as vegetarian or even vegan options for a filling in the end for the sandwich part. So there is kind of I don't want to say endless, but there are a lot of options. And if you look in your refrigerator for some leftovers, you could sneak them into the sandwich somehow and make it work for you. So I'm going to close these sandwiches. Now, if you're wondering, where's the cheese? There's no cheese in this sandwich. However, if you want to use cheese, you totally can use cheese. That will bump up the calcium in here, which is fabulous. But you don't have to. If you have some cheddar, you can, tuck that in. If you love a little bit of feta or goat cheese, you can crumble that in here, and that would be tasty too. Okay. So as a sandwich goes, you can eat these right now. Absolutely delicious. Leftover turkey and cranberry sandwiches ready to go. But we're going to go another step here. I'm going to just move these out of the way and bring in this is just a 13x9 casserole dish. And I did spray it a little bit with some cooking spray. And I like using this 13x9 because somehow it just seems to fit these 6 sandwiches perfectly. Now, the bread I'm using in the recipe, I call for bakery style bread. And what that means is in the bakery, they have the pre-sliced bread, but you can also go to the bakery and ask for their in-house baked bread. And the difference is, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, I'm going to hold the sandwich up a little bit like this so that maybe you can see the cut of it. It's a little bit thinner than a pre-sliced bread typically. So the benefit being is that you still get that delicious bread, but you get a lot more filling. So, and that's really what I love about it. So I'm just going to tuck that in. I had a little piece of turkey jump out on me. Okay. And if your pan's a little bit smaller, just kind of lean them on top of each other a little bit so that they're overlapping. And then our custard mixture goes over top. So I'm just going to, again, whisk it up a little bit to get that sage all over. And then you're just going to carefully pour this over. Okay. And make sure you get kind of every little nook and cranny of the bread here. I'll move this here so that I don't make a mess. There we are. Okay. And it should come kind of up to near top of the bread, just like that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a spatula, and you're going to do this later again, but what I like to do is just take a spatula and give it a little press down here to start to submerge it in that custard, just like that. Okay. Now, here's the sad part. You can't cook this right away. But that's usually a great thing because that means it's a make-ahead. And we love make-aheads. So what you're going to do is wrap this with plastic wrap, or if you have a lid, cover it and tuck this in the refrigerator for at least 1 hour. Okay. But leave it overnight, it's even better because all that egg and milk mixture gets absorbed into the bread and adds so much more flavor. Then you're going to pull it out of the fridge. You're going to turn on your oven to 375 when you're ready to bake it. And then you're going to take that spatula again and just press in the sandwiches again. You'll notice that there's much less liquid on the sides because it's absorbed into the bread. Okay. So this is going to get tucked away. Guess what we're having tomorrow for breakfast? Turkey and cranberry strata. Everybody's welcome. Come on down. We'll serve it up. And it goes into the oven, 375, for about 45 minutes. And so that 45 minutes will vary depending on the bread that you use, how long it's been sitting in the refrigerator to absorb the custard. So I'll bring that one that you got to see ahead of time over. And you may notice that it's already started to deflate a little bit. And that's okay. That's the eggs doing what they do. They're very souffle-like, and they will calm down and kind of just gently deflate a little bit. And I would recommend that you let this sit for about 5 or 10 minutes before you cut into it because it will be hot. Okay. So, and here's where the questions maybe are popping in your head. Emily, there's only 1 or 2 of us. That's a big casserole. We don't have anybody coming over. What are we going to do with it? So remember, there's sandwiches. There's 6 sandwiches in here. So all you need to do, I'm going to grab a serrated knife because I think it'll be easier to cut, you're going to take your knife and just cut out those sandwiches. Okay, just cut around the edge too. That little bit of cooking spray on the pan really does help. Okay, just like that. So you're gonna let this, you can let this cool down. Obviously, maybe you want to eat some tonight with a salad. So you're gonna take out your serving. And I have another spatula here. Okay. Slide that under and lift that out. Take the rest of the bread with me. Oh, you can, it smells like Thanksgiving dinner all over again. And we're not even there yet. So I'm gonna take that, just tuck that under back there. There. No one will ever know, well, except all of you, because you just saw me do it, but it's all good. So you're gonna do the same thing, and you're gonna cut out each sandwich. And then once it's completely cool, you can tuck it away into an airtight container and then put it away. Make sure you write on it and put the date on it. And then in 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, you can have another sandwich and it's absolutely delicious. Now, I will tell you, Tracie, I have dabbled in a few experiments with this turkey and cranberry strata. And for breakfast, what I've done is I've poached an egg. This is for added protein, 100%. I've poached an egg and served it on top for a great brunch dish. So you can actually cut them in half, which I will. I'm going to grab a fork. And everyone can get half a sandwich with a poached egg on top. So a great brunch item there. You can see all the filling kind of oozing out in there, and then with the cranberry sauce. And of course, you can always add additional cranberry sauce to this. I love cranberry sauce, so it's fabulous with that. Or if you have leftover gravy, a nice drizzle of gravy over top would be fabulous as well. And that's as easy as making turkey and cranberry strata. Are there tons more questions? Because we have time.
Hi, I know. How fast was that? And I was busy checking to see questions and stuff. So what I love about this, and I've had it, it's very tasty, is that if you notice, this is not one of those recipes where you have to be precise. It's fancy because it looks good. It shows well. That's what I like to say. It's a recipe that shows well. But you don't need to be all like, it has to be, you know, cut in a certain way and all of that. So there are a couple of questions we talked about. Now, some people have questions around like, because they have other conditions that they are managing. So it's something really where we have the full nutritional breakdown on the recipe page. You can check out sodium, etc. Oh, you can't hear me? Emily, can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Tracie?
Now we can.
Woo.
Woo, can you? And everyone's being really helpful. They're either telling us they can hear us or they're saying, I should text you and we can restart. So this is not the first time this has happened, but this is just because we're live.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. And you know what? It's real life, and that's what happens. So I heard some of the questions that you were saying. I didn't hear everything, but
okay.
I did hear the question about how to roast that tofu.
Yes.
Do it at a high heat, so about 400 degrees on parchment paper lined baking sheet, just till it's nice and golden, because that's really going to give you a nice texture and flavor. So that was, I heard that question. What was another question I heard?
So I was talking about how the full nutrient breakdown is also on the website, but somebody has asked, so let's say they really are not able to eat bread. It's not a gluten thing. It's just it's managing their sugar levels. Is there an option? Sometimes we can provide alternatives. Sometimes we can't, but I don't know, maybe Emily has an idea.
So you can create sandwiches other ways, and using vegetables as, so think of it as anywhere I'm going to use a lasagna as an example. So a lot of people don't want to use the pasta. So you can use in place roasted vegetables like roast eggplant or zucchini. so that you're bumping up your fiber. And it does need to be roasted though, or pan fried, so that it has the opportunity to come together and it doesn't leach out water. Now, the difference there is it ends up becoming a little bit more quiche-like as opposed to a strata, because the vegetables don't absorb the custard as quickly and as evenly as the bread does, but it's still absolutely delicious. So it definitely is a little bit more veggie forward, but you're still getting your protein in there, which would be absolutely delicious. And in the case of estimating how much you would need, so eggplants can be about, that big, so they can be quite large. So think of it that way. You might need, if you have a large eggplant, you might need only 6 slices to go across, and then you can cut it in half. But roast off 8 or 12 slices or 10 slices of eggplant. Zucchini, for sure, you would need more. And what you're doing is you're adding flavor to the zucchini and eggplant, and you're also removing the water so that you can get the benefit of all the flavor. And it would still be delicious with, I would change it up a little bit. I would use the mango chutney and a little bit of curry powder in with the custard, and then use the turkey in there still with the vegetables, and it would be absolutely delicious.
That is great. And we have so many people who are saying, like, you gave really good suggestions for alternatives, but then also, so somebody just asked about hot dog buns. It's bread.
Totally.
Whatever you want to do and however you can make it fit in the baking dish.
And here's the thing, if you don't have sliced bread, let's say you've already, I'll use stuffing as an example, you've already chopped all the bread for stuffing and you have too much, just put the chopped bread on the bottom and then add your cranberry sauce, your turkey, and you could whisk some of that mustard into the custard, put the rest of your bread on top, and then pour it over. You could use, this is one of my favorites, especially for brunch, is using croissants. A little bit more rich and decadent, but they go stale really quickly. So something like this with the turkey and the cranberry sauce, absolutely delicious.
Absolutely. And a little note on the custard, because I was watching, Emily has a really great big measuring bowl. I was going to say cup, it's more like a bowl. That could be really heavy for some people. And it's really easy. You just get a ladle.
Yes.
Leave it beside and just ladle it, so you're not having to put that on. So and this is something where somebody said she roasted a turkey last night. Carolyn said she's going to get some bread. She's making this. Other people said her grandkids would love it, so would mom, and that this would be a great brunch. Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Please try it. If you do, please let us know. We love to hear from you. Before we go, because we're going to wrap it up, I see some people I know we have to go. How fast was this cooking demo? It's one of our
There's still dishes, everybody.
Yes, there's still dishes. I don't have to do them, but I also don't get to taste that. So there we go. But we just really, this is kind of our Thanksgiving themed cooking demo. And we just really want to thank you, because we love that you come on every time we have a cooking webinar, and you guys give us your questions and you're really involved. And we're really excited. We love getting your feedback, because we send out the surveys and we do read them. And we try to make sure that we take your feedback so that we can do programming that really helps. It's about bone health, it's about eating well, it's about living well, it's about healthy aging. So all those good things. So we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. And thank you. See, this is why we're a team. Emily's like, you didn't give the apron away yet, because we done that too.
It's not my apron. You get a brand new apron.
You get a brand new one. So Celine Champagne from Orleans, Ontario, congratulations. You are getting the apron. I will send you an email and we will get that to you. So thank you so much. I'm just going to quickly share, because there's information we do want you to get. So we have other recipes on the website. We have everything from a spiced lentil shakshuka to a stovetop beef curry, stuffed meatballs on creamy polenta, and a Thai shrimp satay noodle salad. There are so many other things. We are doing something a little new. We have an opportunity to do an in-person cooking demo in Toronto in October. It's not on the website yet. There's limited spots. So if you subscribe to the newsletter and you are in the area, or you can get to the location, we're going to be sending that out in the next few days. So we're really excited about that. That will be our first in-person event. And also, we have a lot of programming. So on October 17th, we have a webinar on the exercise recommendations that appeared in the new clinical practice guideline. So for good bone and muscle health and fracture prevention, great if you can join us for that. You may have heard there are some new treatments for osteoporosis, and we have a webinar for patients who are on denosumab, or perhaps you have a loved one, or you just want to learn more. It's about a biosimilar for patients on denosumab. That's Thursday, October 24th. This is also on the website. These are webinars. But we are going to New Brunswick, November 7th. We have an English event, we have a French event. They're going to be both happening on the same day. So if you live in Riverview or near Riverview, New Brunswick, in the morning, November 7th, we have an English Bone Health 101, and in the afternoon, we're going to be leading a French Santé des Os 101. Probably the 101 was not in French. My apologies for those that are Francophone. You must register in advance. You have to get tickets. So we hope that you will join us in New Brunswick. And there are, like I said, there's some other webinars and events coming up. So please subscribe. You can visit the osteoporosis.ca /webinar/event site to register. And I'm just waiting for this to advance. It's frozen, but you know what? You know where the subscribe button is. It's on the homepage, top right-hand corner. This is not going to advance. So thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Emily for another fabulous cooking demo. We wish you well. Stay well. Happy Thanksgiving and happy cooking. Thanks to Roy, who's in the back end doing all other kinds of things for us, helping us. Guys, have a great one. Take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Everybody, happy Thanksgiving.